Welcome to the Online Marketing for Doctors podcast, the place to grow and scale profitable practices with your show hosts, Huyen Truong and Steve Tate.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Online Marketing for Doctors podcast. This is the first Australian healthcare marketing channel designed to help motivated practitioners implement clever, effective marketing ideas to grow and scale their practice. We're very excited today. First off, our hosts for the podcast today. I'm Stephen Tate, and this is
Huyen Truong.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're coming to you today from Sydney, where we've got a special guest on the podcast today, Dr. Theo Baisi. Doctor, could you take a second to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hi, yes, indeed. I've been here in practice as an orthodontist since 1990 in Sydney, in the same place. And I've been involved in teaching all these years, postgrads and undergrads, and also involved in the Australian Society of Orthodontists on a federal and also a state-based basis.
Okay.
And yeah, I enjoy straightening teeth and going fishing, actually.
Going fishing, excellent.
Yeah.
Do you get much time for fishing?
Not as much as I like, and if you look at our window, which you guys can't see, there's a harbour down there, which I kind of
Sure.
would like to be on. No, I like doing this. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't keep doing it. It's fabulous.
Sure, great. And we're coming, from your practice here in Sydney. Can you tell us a little bit more about the services that you offer here?
As an orthodontist, we provide orthodontics to any age, from young children developing in their early dentition stages through teenagers and adults. And one of the important things is not actually just doing things, it's actually giving advice. Back in the day, in the bad old days, it was don't go to see the orthodontist until all the baby teeth have fallen out.
Sure.
Yeah, and today it really is. You know, if someone's got a young son or daughter and they're 3 years old and they have developing concerns, although we won't do anything for a while, it's really easy to come and have a chat and reassure parents that what's happening is normal or that it's always treatable and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, I mean, communication,
Yes.
which is the topic that you've identified earlier that you'd like to talk about today on the podcast, and that's sort of how communication operates in a specialist practice, such as yourself. Now, when we look at communication, I guess we're going to look at it from two forms of communication. One between yourself and referring doctors.
Correct.
And also the patient communication channel as well, too. So first, I guess, let's focus on the referring doctor aspect. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with that type of communication?
On a day-to-day basis, I've had a policy in our practice that if a doctor rings, I get told and I get taken out of the chair and I answer that phone call. Immediately.
Right.
Unless I'm in the middle of bonding something and I just can't leave.
Sure.
But what I've found is that if I don't do that, then I have to go back and try and get the doctor.
Right.
And the doctor's time is just as valuable as mine, and it's much easier to deal with a phone call, an issue, some records straight away than at the end of the day have a list of tasks to go through that you don't always get through, because then what would happen is I'd go, I'd leave a message, and then we do this 5-day telephone tag, and I much prefer to sort everything out on the day. So from that aspect, always, I've got some doctors that I've worked with for many, many years, and they'll actually say, look, not urgent, don't get him up. And they'll leave a message.
Right.
But apart from that, it really is as much as possible, just deal with it straight away.
Right.
From a reporting perspective, we like to make sure we get all our correspondence out within the week. Mm. And the correspondence often entails a letter to the referring doctor, to the parent, to another specialist that we may be using, and I will, as the orthodontist, seems to be the orthodontist is the linchpin in most of these things, and we either CC or send separate reports or duplicates. We almost always send a copy of a report that we've sent to a referring dentist or specialist or doctor or anyone, CC that to the patient or the parent,
right?
As a routine. And nowadays with email, it used to be when I started,
Right.
we were doing triplicate on an electric typewriter.
Sure.
We're not doing that still.
Right. You've evolved.
We've
changed.
evolved.
Right.
And even now, what we can do is with treatment planning,
Right.
I can email, for example, Invisalign treatment or Sure Smile, or I can actually record a short video with what I'm proposing to then share with a referring doctor.
Right. Okay. So yeah, there's been a lot of, I guess, in your history and experience with this, there's been a lot of changes in the nature of communication.
Huge.
Yeah, right. And do you find that you're unique in your approach to this form of communication?
No, I don't think so. Let's just say the people that are using the technology, they would be communicating this way.
Right.
And there would still be some people who would not be using the technology.
Sure. Fair enough.
That's one way of saying it.
Delicately.
The suggestion is we should be using the technology. And I guess the important part is that as a specialist, if you go to your general dentist and your general dentist does this high-tech scan and emails the information and then comes back to see the specialist who then does a little bit of running writing on a piece of paper, kind of go, well, are they keeping up?
Right.
Well, clearly not with the information technology.
Yep.
Are they keeping up with their knowledge?
Yep.
So whether that's right or wrong, and I think it isn't right.
Right.
It's a perception.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
It's a perception, and if you don't keep moving forward, you actually get left behind.
Sure. Great. Well, there was a lot of great information in there and a lot of tips in there. I mean, do you have any other sort of advice for people that would be looking to improve in this area for themselves?
Create the systems. It's really important to create the systems. With all the digital technology we've got, we actually have a printed day sheet, and I've tried to get all the things I need to be done at the end of the day to be correlated through our practice management system.
Yep.
But that's too hard. The simplest way is to actually get the staff to write down, I'm TB, and TBR means TB to report.
Yep.
And on the day sheet, they will write TB to report against a patient's name, or TB ring such and such. And that paper form is probably the most efficient.
Right.
Because it's just hard because there's so much information in all different aspects, correlated somewhere into one spot, and keep it there, and then just stay on top of it. Don't let it get backed up.
Yeah.
And when I first started, I'd be going home with 30 files
Right.
that I'd carry under my arm to spend a weekend doing this. And now it's just I log in, I can get it done. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, right. And it's obviously been very beneficial for you.
Very beneficial. I mean, I was just telling a story. I was talking to another couple of specialists, and one of them remarked, you guys make us look bad. I went, why? Well, you get your reports out so fast and people want them from us too. And I'm going, well, and that's our role. I mean, really, we're at the top end of the information spectrum.
Right.
People come to us for information.
Right.
And if we don't give it to them, they'll go somewhere else, but B, we're not doing our job.
Yeah, sure. Fair
That's
enough.
our job.
Fair enough. Great.
Yeah.
Well, which then leads into the other form of communication that we were going to look at, is that communication between yourself and patients.
Yeah. That's one of my little my little stand on a soapbox moments.
Okay, right.
We spent a lot of years learning a lot of words.
Right.
And it's not our job to use those words at patients.
Yep.
And the reality is, in orthodontics, if I can't make the young 10-year-old patient understand what I'm going to do for them, then the only person I'm kidding is myself.
Right.
All right? And it's very easy to fall into that nomenclature, whatever it is. I think that's one of the worst things that we can get into a habit of doing. The other is over talking.
Sure. Sure.
And not letting the patients absorb what you're saying. One lesson I learned very early on was, if you're talking about a patient to a parent, do not talk as though they're not there. In other words,
not there? The patient.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of, I've looked at little Johnny and his teeth are crooked, and then all of a sudden, now, Mum, what we need to do is this, and this, and this. Whatever we're going to do for Johnny, we're going to do it to Johnny.
Right.
So you must include Johnny in the conversation.
Right, right.
Because some of the reasons people pick you for treatment is because they like you.
Right.
Not because
you're the best, or you're the cheapest, right.
No, and I've had that happen where people have gone somewhere else, and the choice was, well, we like them better.
Right.
And that's all part of what we need to do to engage our patients.
Right.
And as it turns out, the more I've developed this, the letters I now write back to patients are in English.
Yep.
We've got lots of orthodontic terms, class 2, class 3, and overbites and underbites, and I'll talk in plain English to highlight what's going wrong. I'll actually now CC that to the dentist. All right, I used to do a more technical letter to the dentist, but I find that the patients come to the dentist to ask a question, and then the dentist has a different letter. And if the dentist can see, oh, no, look, this is what he said.
Yep.
Because they don't always come back to us.
Yep.
Which our doors are always open, but they can, he said this and this and this. And if they've got the exact thing that I've written, then that's actually the easiest way to communicate.
Right.
And it's a lot less work.
Well, and the benefits, I guess, is the next question. I mean, sometimes I think it might be, you might understand inherently what the benefits are, but there are people who don't engage in sort of good communication practices with their patients, who maybe don't understand some of the benefits. So what have you found?
Oh, very much so. It's one of the things. We had a function for our referring dentists, and one of the guys sitting there just said, refer to Theo. Just refer to Theo. You don't have to worry about anything.
Right.
We make appointments for the patients. We coordinate appointments to see the dentist, to get extractions done or fillings done. We do as much as we possibly can, which is not necessarily technically our role.
Sure.
But our practice continues to still be here.
Yes.
And we still get a good flow of patients, and we try our best. I mean, we have a mission statement, and none of it in the mission statement is about being the best orthodontist. It's about doing the best we can, giving the best environment, with a can-do attitude. It's,
Right.
In a way, someone I did a business course with, in a world full of choice, why you? Not because you're a great orthodontist.
Yep.
But you actually have to provide the service that you were there to do.
Yep.
As well as doing good orthodontics.
Yep. Now, we touched on how digital evolution has changed sort of the referral doctor communication. How has it affected your patient communications?
Essentially, we now actually email everybody.
Yep.
We use for our appointments and all sorts of things. It's becoming more and more, not even through the computer, we're now getting more and more mobile. So I suspect the next generation is people are just not going to use, they'll be reading their letters from their mobile devices and everything else. We're not quite set up yet because our practice management system isn't.
Sure.
And that's another thing, is that if you're looking for a practice management system, you need to get a solid platform with good support, but you also, you really don't save money by not using the technology. It doesn't make sense. And I think very, very soon, our website's on a mobile platform, but as soon as we can, I'll be able to look at stuff from my mobile, answer to their mobile, and just use the services internally. And I think that's the way everybody has to go in eventually.
Sure.
It's actually getting the providers, the people who do all the programming, to make it easy for us.
Sure. You even touched on it briefly earlier about the language of your communications, about everything in English, and I wonder if we could elaborate on that, the need for an easy to understand language, I guess, in communication. You need, the more technical you get, the more apprehensive patients become. Yep.
And in our instance, even if you're talking about needing orthognathic surgery, and you can tell sometimes, an 8-year-old that's going to be, something down the track, you ease people into it. You just don't go, what we're going to have to do is when he's 25, we're going to have to do an osteotomy on the upper jaw and an osteotomy on the lower jaw. And, you basically say, look, there's an underdevelopment of this and it's growing. We'll have to see how it goes and we'll monitor things. And as he gets older, we'll have to plan to see what we need to do in terms of repositioning the jaws. Obviously, at the time, you start to talk to the surgeons and stuff, you're talking about orthognathic surgery and all the rest of it, but you don't need, because what happens now is they go, orthognathic surgery,
right.
Dr. Google.
They're Googling.
And they're terrified.
Sure.
And they're even, it's crazy how they scare themselves.
Yeah, sure. No, fair enough.
Even simple things, but anyway, yeah.
You've seen it all, I guess.
Yeah.
Seen and heard it all. Do you have any other sort of advice for other specialists in this area about sort of maybe the most important success criteria for engaging with good communication practices?
I think it's not just us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's the whole team needs to be good at it.
Yep.
There's no point having someone on the desk that, hold please.
Right.
And that happens a lot. And it just, the more roadblocks you put in, the less patients will respond.
Yeah, sure.
And if you're lucky enough, then you've got the market sewn up, then you can do what you want. Does that actually make you seen well in the community? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Our practice has been around since 1960 with the original partner, and we've always, in fact, the original partner, it was like we still do letter form, even though it's emailed, it's an emailed letter form.
Right.
It's not dot points with nothing. There's explanations, which shows that we've actually looked at it. And if you need to have something resent and redone, everybody's there to help.
Right.
Not, look it up yourself.
Sure.
No.
So in general, it's an entire whole practice kind of concept.
Today,
you have to work as a team
Today
working
you do.
towards to developing good
Yeah,
communication.
today you do, because it's a competitive environment. I think in most situations, and the digital world is changing things rapidly.
Right.
And it's actually fun.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
Playing with all the digital stuff is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, which brings us to sort of our last question. We are online medical marketing for doctors, and so marketing is sort of one of the aspects to what we do. And we would just like to ask a quick question.
Wow, so we noticed that you've been very active online, especially when it comes to search and social marketing. And could you please give the audience your best tips and advice when it comes to, dominating the online scene? And we've seen you everywhere. Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah.
That's really easy.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
Sure. Okay.
Get someone in the practice who does.
Right.
And if they're, I don't know, over 35, they probably don't anymore.
Right.
And let them develop. In fact, if you think that you can do it better, which most specialists think they can.
Correct.
They're wrong.
Right. Okay.
And especially in marketing, and especially in this environment, get young people, engage them, give them an opportunity, and use them, and let them do it for you. I don't do any of it.
Right.
I'm part of it.
Right.
They make me do silly dances and things, but I don't direct it. I don't do anything. I'm not involved in it.
Right.
I'm just a passenger, and
Right.
they use me, but they're the ones who direct it, because they're in their 20s and teens, and they're the ones. And it's going to change. Next week it'll be something different, and the week after it'll be something else.
Yep. No, true.
Yeah.
Great.
And also, what have you been able to track what works and what hasn't in terms of online marketing channel? Is that social media, search engine optimization? Have you got some idea about that?
The conversion rates. So. That's a really difficult question, because we are in a group, and we all do a whole lot of stuff. And if we actually look at the search engine optimization and the data and everything else, most important thing is to actually make sure that you're getting flow in. Mm-hmm. All right. So the conversion then from someone who actually hits your website, that's a little bit more difficult, because we're actually quite small. So I suspect that, if you're Nike and you got hundreds of thousands and millions of hits, then you can, sort that out. You need to make sure you're getting people in. You need to make sure you're getting people looking, and from that you can be fairly certain that you're not going to be forgotten.
Sure.
And to me, that's actually more important than just actually saying, a conversion here and a conversion there.
Sure.
And that'll happen. And it's about being top of mind more than anything else. And I think that's very important today, rather than, a Yellow Pages ad or something like that.
Top of mind.
Yeah. But even the way we do stuff, and online now, we used to send out brochures we used to send out stuff that we just don't do anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And online is not expensive by comparison. So, I mean, I would not go anywhere near radio or television or movies, or because that is expensive. It's short term, and this social area is just a bubble. It just bubbles along, and it has to keep active. If you're not active, they'll drop off.
Yeah. And also we noticed that you have a great website, like you have mobile friendly, and a website that has a lot of information. So could you tell us a little bit more about the importance of having a up-to-date website in online marketing, success that you've got so far?
It's vital.
Yeah.
It's vital. You can't have a pretty website that you like. You need a commercial website.
Yeah.
And that has to state very simple things. How to get an appointment, how much, how long in our case.
Wow.
All right. So, and they need to be accessed very simply because, and this is all about, and again, I don't know anything about it, and you need to have confidence in the person that's going to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're lucky we are with the group, and there's about 30 or 40 orthodontists in the group, and we're looked after very well, and we have a team that really works on that. But there are a lot of people who come, I'll improve your optimization, and I'll do better than them, and it's difficult. And I think unless you actually have someone on board who can distinguish what's good or bad, I won't be able to. I mean, I've got other things to do, and I don't have the skills.
Great. Well, that brings us to the end of today's podcast. I want to take a second to thank Dr. Theo Baisi for joining us today on the Online Marketing for Doctors podcast channel. It was great to have your expertise. You provided a lot of great information and insights into communication in specialist practices like yourself. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was good fun.
Yeah, great. And if you are listening to this channel and you want to get involved too and be one of the guests on our show, the link to registering yourself as a guest is in the show notes below. If you had any comments that you wanted to give back on today's podcast, you can leave some comments in the comment section below. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you next week on the next podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Online Marketing for Doctors podcast with Huyen Truong and Steve Tate. Be sure to check out the archive section on our website for previous episodes at onlinemarketingfordoctors.com/podcast. And subscribe to the show so we can catch you at the next episode.